Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for July 5th of 2023. Currently we have a dual slight risk set up for the Chicago City region, as well as another larger slight risk for the western central plains near Colorado, New Mexico, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and the Texas Panhandle. And then attached to that, we do have another marginal threat that extends along the coast into the southern Dixie Valley region, which is going to be associated with that quasi-stationary diffuse front along the Dixie Alley that I covered yesterday. As for our threats for today, we do have a 2% tornado threat for that slight risk region further out west. And as for our wind threat, we do have a 15% for either slight risk area with a 5% for the marginal threat regions. As for our hail threat, we have a 15% with a hatch significant for the larger slight risk area with a 5% around that. And as for the slight risk that's near Chicago, we do have a 5% around that going up along the western coast of the Michigan Lake. Taking a look at our pivotal weather models, you can see that we do have a pretty strong jet stream that is going to be active in the wake of that shortwave trough that is moving through the area. And I think that this remnant right here that you're currently seeing right here, this mid-level impulse, is still part of that shortwave trough that's moving through the region. However, it could also be combined with a subtropical jet. However, where this jet stream is moving through in both slight risk regions, that's going to be the main reason that everywhere else it's going to be more of a marginal threat. And then in these slight risk regions, it's going to be upgraded to a slight risk because that's where the jet stream is moving through. You can see right here where the slight risk region is, we have the pretty strong jet stream, and then near the Chicago region, we have another strong jet stream just a little bit to the north, but it will definitely affect severe weather development and possibly eject some storms across the slight risk region. As for further down south in the Dixie Valley region, we don't really have all that strong of any mid-level flow, so you might be wondering what might be the triggering factors for that marginal threat that's along the Dixie Valley, and that's going to be the quasi-stationary diffuse front that is currently stationed over the Dixie Valley region that I did cover yesterday in our July 4th forecast, and I likely won't cover it in today's forecast, but I definitely will cover it in the first half of today's forecast when looking at the triggering factors. Taking a look at our temperatures so we can take a look at the different fronts that are moving through the region, we still have that cold front that is making its way out of Canada that triggered some pretty strong severe weather yesterday. You can see that we still have that cold front there. You can see it right there, and then you can see it's kind of faint. It is a diffuse boundary along the Dixie Alley. There is that diffuse stationary boundary, which is going to be triggering severe weather development across the Dixie Valley. You can see it more prominently here between the 80s and 70s in the very dark in the browns, and then also between the reds. You can see that boundary here that goes all the way up into Texas, which then should connect along with that cold front that's moving through the region. Taking a look at our dew points, this might be a little bit more complicated in today's forecast than any other forecast because I'm covering such a large area that factors are definitely going to be different between different areas in the different risks. So further out east, there's much stronger humidity than compared to further out west in that slight risk region. However, along that marginal threat along the Mississippi River, you can see that we do have some fairly strong dew points in the 70s, and then back towards the slight risk with that 2% tornado threat region, we do have much more moderate dew points, which is going to lead to the possibility of much more moderate CAPE. However, in the Chicago region, we do have much stronger dew points, and anywhere along that marginal threat, we should see the possibility of some much stronger instability, where we could see the possibility of much more widespread and possibly more explosive storms, but definitely not an increased potential for them. Taking a look at our lapse rates, you can see starting off with the marginal threat in the slight risk region that's near Chicago in this Midwest and not in the Central Plains, you can see that we do have some fairly overall weak lapse rates, which is definitely going to decrease our overall CAPE compared to if we had some pretty strong lapse rates, and that's likely going to bump down our instability a lot because we don't have strong lapse rates, and it's going to still allow for the possibility of some fairly strong instability in the upper moderates to the low 3000s, possibly the mid 3000s with lapse rates like this in that strong dew point. However, further out west, we do have some fairly stronger lapse rates in that slight risk region. However, weaker overall dew points is going to lead to the possibility of a much more moderate cape. However, we could definitely see the possibility of maybe some upper moderates with stronger lapse rates. Overall, weaker dew points is going to lead to the possibility of overall weaker instability. Taking a look at our instability, you can see starting off with the marginal threat and the Chicago slight risk region, you can see that we do have some fairly strong instability. As I predicted, we do have dew points in the upper moderates to also the 3000s and possibly the mid 3000s. We may also see the possibility of maybe some upper 3000s in regions like central Illinois here. It's definitely possible. However, I don't think we're going to get up to the low 4000s because it's such a tiny area. Again, it's definitely possible. However, it might be unlikely and likely just going to get up to the upper 3000s, which could be possible. But again, along this marginal threat, we could see the possibility of more widespread storms, maybe not more explosive storms, but definitely more widespread storms, as storms that develop along this cold front is going to be able to use the stronger instability to grow to larger sizes, as well as maybe allow for the possibility of maybe more explosive storms. It may be possible, but right now, because it's only marginal threat, it may not be all that likely and may just grow to larger sizes and organize really rapidly into a swell line. However, back towards the slight risk that is in Colorado and the western central plains, you can see that we do have much more moderate cape. We have the 1000s to possibly the 2000s and mid 2000s, with the possibility of elongated photographs with strong mid-level flow. We could definitely see the possibility of maybe some large hail, as well as with whatever wind shear we have, we could see the possibility of that 2% tornado threat with this instability, as well as with the possibility of some strong damaging outflow gusts, as well as that threat does also stand further out east, as we could definitely see some strong damaging outflow gusts with strong instability. And then back towards Chicago, where that strong jet stream is moving through again, we could see the possibility of maybe some small to medium-sized hail with this instability. Taking a look at our wind shear, you can see that it does look like towards the Chicago slight risk region, we do have some fairly strong wind shear associated with the mid-level flow. However, it also does look like we are going to have some storm ejection. You can see some strong wind shear in the wake of some storm development with the jet stream moving just to the northwest of it. You can see that it does look like that some storms are going to veer off path and go towards the Chicago region, and allow for the possibility of maybe some medium to small hail, as well as with strong cape, allow for the possibility of maybe some strong damaging outflow gusts. However, I don't think tornadoes are going to be possible because it does take place outside of the strong mid-level flow. And then back towards the slight risk region in the west central plains, in the Colorado region, you can see that we do have some overall fairly strong widespread shear. However, I do think most of this is going to be mostly speed shear, and we are looking at the entire spectrum, so it may look much stronger than it really is in different layers. So looking at the entire spectrum, it's all mushed down into one frame, so it does look like it could be overall much more stronger than it really is. However, again, I do think a lot of this is going to be mostly speed shear. However, we could definitely see some strong low level directional shear that is going to be sufficient enough for a 2% tornado threat. And then I will look at the storm relative helicity, even though I said I won't anymore. I'm still trying to play around with it a little bit and determine like if it's really good for forecasting or not, because there is the fact that it does not discriminate between violent tornadoes or weak tornadoes, and just allows for the possibility of looking at tornadoes in general, which it could be good for forecasting that. And I'm still just trying to play around with it and see if it's good for forecasting or not, and I will look at storm relative helicity after that. However, with this strong speed shear, we could definitely see the possibility of elongated photographs and the possibility of some large hail. Taking a look at our storm relative helicity, let's take a look at the 2% tornado threat region. I'm not worried about anywhere else, just the 2% tornado threat region for storm relative helicity, because it does take a look at our directional shear. And again, I am a little bit concerned and on the edge about if it's really good for forecasting or not, so I'm still playing around with storm relative helicity. So do take storm relative helicity with a grain of salt, and I may not use it every forecast, as again, I am still playing around with it to see if it's good for forecasting, but taking a look at the 2% region for the slight risk in the west central plains, you can see that we do have some overall weak storm relative helicity. However, it does look like that this amount of storm relative helicity in some widespread regions is definitely going to be possible and sufficient enough for the possibility of that weak 2% tornado threat. And given our instability, we could definitely see the possibility of maybe 1 or 2 brief tornadoes today, and maybe a funnel cloud or a wall cloud if you live in this particular region. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator. Join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas I covered today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and subscribe for more weather content, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.